Live from the Plutopia News Network. According to the old clock on the studio wall, it's 4:20, and that's
Woo!
kind of our subject for this evening. And we have our esteemed guest, the unusual suspects. She says it's Stephanie. We call her Squeamish Joy, Susie Wheeler,
Nice.
and we're expecting our friend Perry Parks soon. And we're
We
just
do.
going to be talking about 420 related, whatever, babbling, I guess. We will be babbling a bit. It goes with any time we're getting together on 420. And it looks like Perry is joining us right now. So we'll have a
Right.
contingent here.
Yay.
Yay. Hello, sir.
Welcome.
How are you?
No,
No,
no
no
sound.
Can't
sound.
hear you.
Are you there?
Oh, there you
There
are.
you go.
We're hearing some sound there.
You got me?
How are you? Yeah,
There.
can you turn it up just a little bit?
You're going to have to guide me a little bit. I'm technically unsavvy.
Okay, let's see. I don't know how to do that.
Be the volume on. You're on a laptop?
I'm on
Oh, audio settings. That's where you're gonna go.
Yeah.
It's down at the bottom where the microphone is. You're gonna click that little arrow, and then it'll open up a menu and hit audio settings.
Yeah, it allows you to turn your volume up.
And it'll say output volume and all that stuff.
I am learning with you.
Still learning
I
experience.
didn't know I could do that. Is
And
my volume?
we won't
okay?
even charge you extra there.
Wow.
There's no cover
Okay.
charge to get in here, although I will hit you up on the way out.
I love learning moments. They're of my favorite times.
Okay.
You get it?
Okay. Any luck
Okay.
there?
Let's see. Can we hear you? Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, it's good to see you. I've met you. I had the honor of meeting you in Asheville when I lived there several years ago and tried to get the first normal going there in Asheville. I think they stuck around for a little while, but I don't know. I'm back in Austin now. And you, sir, you were in the military. What was your, if you don't mind my asking, your rank?
Or are you talking to me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. I was a chief warrant officer, W4, when I got out. I spent 29 years, 11 years active duty, and then I got disgusted with Vietnam after 30 months flying helicopters, and I said, well, gosh, I think I'll just get out. And so I got out, and I stayed out for about 14 years. And then fortunately, North Carolina National Guard got Cobras and Huey helicopters.
Oh,
And I just happened to be a Cobra instructor. So they invited me to join the Guard, and I stayed 18 years.
Wow.
So,
wow. And okay, and so you are now, how long have you been retired?
since I turned 60, I retired from the Guard.
Okay, and you have been a proponent for cannabis for how long?
Well, you might say 12 to 15 years, but Michael Krawitz, I'm sure you have met or know him.
Yes, sir.
When I first decided, I was going to church at a small church here in this little town in North Carolina. And I told him that I had found that cannabis relieved my symptoms of PTSD much better than the narcotics and sleeping pills and other stuff I was taking. And so when I did that, being a strong church member and a believer in the truth, when I realized that it really worked, I went to my preacher, my pastor, and I said, look, this is the truth. Aren't we all searching for the truth? And he said, yeah, but you know, your daughter's in high school and you got the church here and you do that. And so I did it. I came out in the newspaper. I said, I'm going to use it because it works. And I'm just kind of putting you on notice that I'm using it. And
Yeah.
never had any problems. I was stopped in the Charlotte airport one time because I stupidly tried to take a couple of ounces with me on the airplane in New York.
Oh, whoa.
That could draw some attention there.
These pictures, but you know, the really nice thing was that the lawyer who represented me, we never even had to make a plea. And the judge said, look, why don't we just put this off for 2 months and if nothing happens, we'll drop it. And so that's what they did.
Wow.
That's great that they were
Thank
able to do
goodness.
that, because a lot of people have been
Wow.
put away for significant amounts of time for that. And
For less amounts.
fortunate that the idea of medical marijuana has become more mainstream. People understand it now that it's an actual thing. The people used to. My wife was one of the original patients that got medical marijuana in California when they started that,
Wow.
and she was treated. She worked for a big medical foundation there in the Kaiser Permanente Medical Care Program, and she was an accountant. And they were freaked out. Her Kaiser Permanente doctor gave her the prescription, and he was really reluctant because in those days it was still looked at as a bunch of hippies just want to get high and say it's for medicine, and
And it,
not the case.
yeah.
She has multiple sclerosis and degenerative disc disease, so it was essential and it helped immensely.
Also on traumatic brain injury, you know, which a lot of my fellow veterans suffered those. And I was fortunate in 2009 in Warwick, Rhode Island at a Patients Out of Time conference. I met Dr. Masulan, who passed away last week. And I had lunch with he and his wife. And it was extraordinary because I thought, given my college days, that I knew a lot about cannabis. I found out that I knew nearly nothing. And so when I started to really look at it, I started going to the medical conferences. The first conference I went to, where in Rhode Island, where I met Dr. Masulan, someone stood up and told me why I felt better. And I thought, my goodness, if this is the truth, where are we going? What are we doing? And so I attended a conference in Washington, D.C. With Ethan Nadelman and several other influential people. And they were talking about all the progress we've made and how it's going to happen one day. And they were talking about 3 to 5 years. And I just got berserk. I said, look, I don't have 3 to 5 years. Got
Yeah.
20 veterans a day taking their life.
Yeah.
And any one of these could be impacted by cannabis use if they were not restricted or advised not to do it.
Right.
When I finally decided to do it, I went to my doctor, who's a pain medicine doctor here in my small town. And I said, look, I use it all the time and it works. And he said, with your x-ray of your back, how are you walking right now? So I'm walking fine. And so he said, well, if I prescribe opiates for you, what's going to happen to me? I said, nothing. I said, that is a big bunch of bunk that the DEA uses to scare doctors into not writing prescriptions. And as a result of that, Michael Crowich, who's become quite a friend, comes here to see my doctor for his small opiate use. But what I found, I went to 10 conferences, or nine or 10 conferences. And when I saw what they really knew, I was so shocked. It's like the traumatic brain injury. When Dr. Masulan discovered anandamide, which is it's a substance in the brain which is physically and chemically very similar to THC. And so what they found was, hey, this is a natural substance in the brain, and it goes right through the blood-brain barrier. The blood-brain barrier is to protect you from eating the pretty berries that will kill you. And so most artificial things will not make it through the blood-brain barrier. So that presented a real problem for treating these brain injuries because nothing would go through the blood-brain barrier. And then they said, wait, this cannabis stuff goes right through because it's perceived by the body as a natural substance.
Yeah.
Oh my
So
We have receptors.
this opened a new door into the gliomas, the brain tumors, because all of a sudden you've got a natural substance that passes through. And your viewers already know this, but when I talked to Dr. Mashulin, he discovered THC in 1964. He said he got a bunch of rats together and they were fighting and messing around, and he fed them some cannabis, and they calmed down. And so he isolated the substance that caused that. Well, Wake Forest University here in North Carolina in the 80s decided they were going to see how the brain used this cannabis. How did it get into the brain's thought waves? And so they worked for years and discovered the receptors for cannabis. And instead of the receptor in the brain, which stops a narcotic and says, you don't feel any pain, these receptors are all over your body.
Yeah.
So they mitigate the pain signals going up the body.
Yes.
When I found that out, I said, well, wait a minute. Dr. Mashulin said the brain does not develop a receptor to a plant. And so they didn't really understand how it worked, but they found a receptor. And so they, when Mashulin started working more, he found that this one substance would go right through the receptor. And they said, Dr. Mashulin, you have the honor of naming this because you discovered it. And he said, well, I'm going to call it anandamide. Anandamide is a Sanskrit word for bliss. And they said, Dr. Mashulin, you're Hebrew. Why don't you name it a Hebrew? He said, we don't have a word for bliss.
Oh,
Wow,
wow.
that's incredible.
Wow.
What a great story.
So anyway,
So,
knowing,
yes.
knowing this about the product and the fact that it would go through the blood-brain barrier led, I think, eventually to the endocannabinoid system, which we now know a good deal about, but only 60% of medical schools teach. And I'm in the same audience that knows about the EOC or ECO or EC,
Yeah.
endocannabinoid system. Are you familiar with it?
Yes.
Yeah, I figured you are. But a lot of doctors are not.
My doctor is reticent to prescribe. He said, I mean, it's obviously illegal here. But he said if it were legal, that he would not prescribe it because there aren't enough studies that have been done that can allow him to know how much to prescribe and this sort of thing. And so what is a prescription? Because we don't have it here. We don't have you can go buy a flower from so how much is it? Is it anywhere near, what the street stuff is in cost and the amount of THC and CBD? And I have another question, but I'll let you finish those two first.
No, I was just so surprised because, like I said, I thought I knew a lot about cannabis, but when I went to the medical conferences, I found that I just scratched the surface, And the more I learned, the more upset I got at the legal attitude towards cannabis. All these veterans who are suffering, who are dying, and are told that it doesn't work. I made a presentation, and DC on Capitol Hill to that was part of the group that spoke to Congress about it. And I said, you know, whenever, and I spoke to a large group of American Legion, and they looked at me like they were almost looking at me like, I don't know if I trust you or not. The attitude towards the candidates fostered by the United States government and Harry Inslinger was so draconian that it created a little line between those people. I'm 80 years old, and so when I first started going to talk to people about it, when you reach an older person and you mention cannabis, something in his brain just automatically puts a shutter down.
Yes.
Everybody brings up reefer madness, and it's going to make you crazy and go commit crimes.
Well, yeah.
Has the Veterans Administration loosened up at all when it comes to cannabis? Because I know it was the VA hospitals were very opposed to it for a long time. Has that improved any?
Well, yes. I mean, there are more people who know now. Whenever I finally realized what was happening, my local newspaper editor, they did print the article saying I used it. But then the second time they did it, he said, look, we're not going to be talking about this anymore. And he turned and started to go back to his office, and I screamed, you're an idiot. He froze in his tracks and turned around. I said, look, I didn't mean it to say, I'm just ignorant of the facts. I don't mean the substance. And so that turned into an incredible relationship, because the journal got on my side and started publishing everything like I was writing my own rock. And I've been in, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, gave me an interview, A Good Soldier, which
yes,
you may
right.
see behind me
That's right.
Was a real surprise. And when I really started working, Bruce Bartok, who has written numerous articles and he took a year off to study cannabis, and he runs the weekly website in Washington State. And so I was in Colorado and speaking about veterans and how veterans were being helped with cannabis. And I ran into Bruce. And I didn't just run into him. I mean, I think the good Lord, somebody, whatever it is, led me to the right spot, because I was walking through in my uniform. He said, what are you doing here? And I said, well, I'm medical marijuana patient. He said, what? He said, look, I'm like for time and some of these magazines, could we talk for a few minutes? And so he interviewed me there in Colorado. And I came on Time magazine. And it gave me a better presence when I spoke to people. But I was really, really just gratified, because it shows a picture of me on the page opposite to John. But in the back of the book, he said, it's time we change our attitude towards cannabis. Instead of the stigma that's attached to it, we need to realize these people are searching for a cure, or searching for help. Or maybe
yes,
at least for help. And that is that's criminal. People see me every day, thank you for your service. That's what I'm fine, just quit arresting me.
yeah, exactly.
But my attitude, I'm kind of hard hitting. And when I realize that I'm right about something, I don't back down to you. And I spent 10 years in my money because I believed in this. And I traveled all around California. But the thing that really surprised me was when I learned in Washington, D.C., they said another 3 to 5 years. When after it's been another 15 years. And it's just appalling how much we know and what the need is and how we treat it. We still are trying to put people in jail. And,
When do the medical when do people start writing papers about it, and when do they start the studies, and what do we do to make them start? Do we need to flood them with postcards? What do we do?
To talk to your representative, develop a relationship. And see, everybody's afraid to talk. Oh, he's a congressman. Look, he's up there to do things that you want him to do.
Yep.
He doesn't know that you want him to do it. He's not going to do it. And so you have to make an appointment. And this is where it comes down to everybody. It has to get to the point because they have such a wedge issue with all the fear that's been instilled over the past 40 or 50 years that if you as a person had your right, you're a constituent. And so you go to your congressman and you tell him, Tom Tillis, my senator, was the Speaker of the House.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Joe Hackney, and he was the Speaker, and I said, look, why don't we put our farmers back to work, growing a crop that kills cancer, it kills them,
Cash crop.
Yeah. And so we had so many farmers out of work.
Oh man.
It was depressing to spend 10 years and listen, don't get me wrong. I see the progress. I see I just drove home from Myrtle Beach. All the signs for CBD. I mean, it's everybody up and down the beach. Stop here at the hookah bar,
Yeah.
But they're not being given real satisfactory medicine.
Right.
And they're not doing enough to learn the best way. Well, they are doing a lot, but they're still pushing the wrong side of the ball.
Yeah, yeah. The people in Texas, the politicians have been very reluctant to do anything that would help medical marijuana. We have a program here, but it's almost it's almost a joke because their idea of medical marijuana is a very low grade, low content, and it's extremely expensive.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a $200.
And what did they?
Yeah.
And it's supposed to last you how long?
This is a 1-to-1 ratio, so it's 1 milligram to 1 milligram.
And see, I get my doctor, because I have chronic pain. I'm on opiates. I've been on them forever. And I have gotten my doctors to always let me smoke marijuana because they, and then I came back to Texas from North Carolina and the guy wouldn't let me do it. And so finally he comes in and says, get a prescription for, what is it? It's fake. It's Marinol, but it's Dronabinol and then he hands me he doesn't hand me the prescription because they don't do that anymore. But he said, listen, whatever you do, don't take it.
Great.
Said it will make you sick. The only reason I have that prescription is so that when I pee in a cup, I have a reason to have THC in my system, and I get tested like at least once every 3 months. So there are ways around it.
Yeah. Firstly, I have, been a medical marijuana user. I say, but most of my life, I have complex PTSD from childhood medical traumas, and found my way to cannabis at an extremely early age, and used it for 20 plus years almost daily, and decided that that I was ready to quit, or it'd be okay if I did. And that's when I actually got diagnosed with PTSD, because I had a real, and they put me on all sorts of drugs, which I had never used any kind of maintenance drugs. And those drugs made me very sick and made me gain like 80 pounds. And I mean, I just really messed up my life. And I went off those drugs and went back to cannabis, and it took me a few years for my body to stabilize. But, I maintained severe chronic pain and CPTSD and anxiety disorder with virtually no pharmaceuticals, except for cannabis. And I think it's cruel I think it's like absolutely cruel that they keep cannabis out of the system. It doesn't, it's illogical.
Yeah, I found that
Really is.
it is really good for helping people not use so much of the opiates because my wife
Absolutely.
has
Or alcohol.
has transitioned off of opiates. She was taking a lot of oxycodone because since 2019, in 2019, I explained it to people. In 2019, she had 2 breasts and 2 legs, and today she has 1 leg. And that means she went through all of that in that short period of time. And of course, the doctors were saying, "Here, take this, take this, take this," and she really hated the way she was feeling. She started using marijuana, and was able. She no longer, she stopped taking the oxycodone quite some time ago, and
Yeah.
she has
And
some gummies that she takes.
For me, the traditional meds aren't really an option. I have, because of the health issues that I had as a child, I had, I've had more than 25 surgeries, and I've only got 1 kidney, and I've only, it's like, I would be dead if I had taken everything that was prescribed to me by now. I simply would not be alive. And that is the truth,
Perry,
right?
you are the president of the North Carolina cannabis patients. Is that correct? Uh-oh.
Yep.
You're the president of the North Carolina Cannabis Patients Network. Is that right?
Well, I'm kind of the past president. I have fallen down in my duties somewhat. Yeah, we had at one time about 1,300 North Carolina residents who would go to the legislature and pound the pavement for them. And we spent several years doing it. The last time we had 14 Democratic sponsors, and we could not get a single Republican on board. And they're not quite as bad as your guy, Greg Abbott.
Nobody's that bad except
Yeah,
for
he's the bottom of the
Rhonda.
list.
Yeah, we've got, and it's
Florida man always competes with Texas man. Come on,
it's
that's just
just
the way it
what
is.
it's what we do.
By the way, I have a newspaper. It probably doesn't show.
I see. No, wait, come
Oh, no,
closer.
go closer.
Yeah, higher. Put it like right in front of your face.
Yeah.
Trump, wait, it's right there. Romantic comedy, open Thursday. I can't see the rest of it.
In community theater.
That's Donald Trump's signature.
Oh
Oh
my
my gosh.
You have a Donald
Hold
Trump
it up higher. Hold it up higher.
Now I need to, now.
Yeah,
Oh
there you go.
my
Oh my God.
God.
Look at that
How
evil
did you
thing.
get that?
And this is me talking to him. This is the second visit. And I told him, I said, look, I use marijuana. He said, you do? I said, yeah, I'm a disabled vet. Of course, I was in uniform. And he said, does it help? I said, it works very well. And he said, well, where do you get it? I said, on the black market. Where the hell do you think? Said, that's not right. And he's done nothing about it.
Well,
I love that he's the bar for
where do you get it? He was probably looking for a score. He was right?
Like, my son needs to come down off the coke.
It's obvious that he has never had to go out and try to score some weed because he always had flunkies to say, here, boy, go get me. And his big thing, apparently, allegedly, was cocaine back in the 80s when he was doing the Studio 54 disco scene. So it's like, he knows a lot about drugs, but he's not going to, open up and say, yeah, I smoked marijuana.
He's still got that I never drank or anything kind of.
And I always pay all my bills.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's on the Mediterranean diet.
Right. So, Perry, what is going on? Do you think how many states have to pass these laws before it's like a referendum and we just say, okay, it's just legal?
Oh, there are 39 states now. When I started, there were 14 states with some kind of legislation. Mostly California's first Proposition 215 in '96. And then we came along, and it was a struggle for a long time. And when I got politically active, this is my favorite picture. And they disliked me so much that I like presidents. This is Barack.
A little
A
bit
little
higher.
higher. Higher. There you go. Oh,
Oh,
wow.
wow. He's
That's
a
awesome.
you
That's a
know,
much better shot.
he inhaled, man.
The newspaper would not print that. This is a newspaper photograph.
Oh, wow.
And
Oh,
I was
you've got
sitting
a
with the governor in North Carolina in Winston-Salem. And when he came in, I lost all my cool. And I said, Barack. When I did, he turned and looked at me, and then he came walk. He just shot me. Came shocking over and grabbed my hand. So, but that photograph was never published in the paper.
That's
Wow.
you have you uploaded that? I want to see that on like Facebook. You got to take a picture of that with your phone and put it on Facebook.
If you Google Perry Parks, you can find it. You know.
Oh, I'm so excited. That is so cool.
Yeah, well, he was a disappointment because he didn't do anything about it. He knew.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
did know.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem, even with the Democratic politicians, is if they're part of the machine, they're going to not really, go out on a ledge there and, tempt fate. It's always going to be, take
Neutral.
the slow,
It doesn't make
neutral
sense,
approach.
though, because it's new businesses, it's jobs, it's a cash crop that's a cover crop to reinvigorate the soil. I mean,
Morality.
but do you think that maybe this will turn on them like the abortion issue has turned on them? Because
Well,
I know a lot of Republicans who like to get high.
I do too. And it really does have to change because there are so many people now, even in North Carolina. Now, the North Carolina Senate has passed the bill for medical marijuana.
Hallelujah.
But the House now is back wagging along, but they're actually being hustled a little bit. We got 39 states now.
Yeah.
Legal medical marijuana. And it is it's enlightening that we've changed this much and we have this many states now. But the problem is how difficult this progress has been. The other thing I learned was why I still have I take a time delayed opiate that you don't notice anything from it. I know, again, if they wanted to break the cocaine or the opiate habit, that's all they have to do is put oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Years. But they have a way of knowing that it works and still keeping it illegal. And it's frustrating, to say the least.
In Texas, the politicians are slowly coming around. I was surprised that our Sid Miller, who's he's so far to the right he almost falls off the planet, but he's in charge of the hemp farming licenses that they finally, after many years, finally agreed to allow people to grow hemp as a cash crop, as long as it didn't, wasn't the THC producing variety.
I have actually an interesting anecdote about that. Apparently, during the time that they were trying to get the hemp passed, one of the committee members said, "How do we know you won't abuse it the way you abused marijuana?" And somebody said, "Are you afraid we're going to make too many sheets?" I was like, what are you talking about? It's rope.
It's that level of ignorance. I mean, there's something that you should at least inform yourself if you're going to be in a position of making that type of a decision for an entire citizenship. And so to be that level of intent, it's willful ignorance of my opinion, because if you have put yourself in a position of representing a community of people, then you have a responsibility to educate yourself about the topics that you were having opinions on. And so to not even literally understand what it is it's unacceptable. I mean, it really is. It's fucking bullshit. I'm sorry. I just like have to. It's just. I'm sorry, but it's. It just. I'm sorry. It makes me angry. I'm sorry. Like I wore my fucking shirt. Okay.
And what is, I'm sorry, I don't know, what, are you an activist in Texas or?
You know what? No, I'm not an activist. I am a personal activist of sorts, in that I'm a vocal cannabis user for medical reasons. But really, I work as I work with people and as a coach and like as a creative and things like that, but I'm just a very expressive individual. It's like, yeah, I've had some involvement with the activism, but not like, I wouldn't take that kind of credit, because we do have people doing really hard work here in Texas. And like, I honestly, I do a lot to channel energy towards them. That is the truth. Like, it's hard here.
Do they have normal did they keep the chapter up?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Is John Kennedy still working with them?
Kennedy?
Yeah, he was the one who tried to help me. We started it, and I think it kept going, but I don't know. It was, about what, 7 years ago? Yeah.
8 years.
I've been, out of the loop just a little bit, but I did, I was going to say, I came to Austin to buy a helicopter. I went to work for a man a long time ago.
Wow.
And I have a nephew. Is it okay to mention his name on?
Sure.
Yeah. He's been in Austin now for several years. And he I don't know what extent he does that, but he is very familiar. Most young people are. They're not been scared to death, so they really understand a little bit more about Dan Lowenhurst.
Awesome.
Ranch out there. And one of these days I'm going to Austin to visit him.
Well, we would love to take you to dinner, and maybe hang out a little bit before that.
Otherwise I wouldn't have done.
Well, it's been decriminalized here in Austin, but we also in Austin now have state troopers patrolling, because we're Austin. Every Republican has to come here for session, and they despise us because we're so liberal. And they actually talked, there was a bill, I don't know where it is right now, it may have been killed, but the original bill drafted wanted to make Austin a district.
Yeah, like Washington, D.C.
Like D.C., yeah.
Which would disenfranchise us completely.
Yeah, that's kind of stalled, but they're still pushing it. But
they have dreams. They want to succeed as well. And
yeah, but that would affect more than just Austin, because in order for them to pass it, it would have to apply to other places. Otherwise, it's just targeting, and the
UT would
throw that out immediately.
Yeah, there's no way UT would go for it. There's just no way, and they own this town, really. So. But okay, so what is the next? Are there any medical marijuana bills that will find their way to the Senate and or the House? Is anybody writing anything right now?
Yeah, I think the House is working on it. I should be more involved, but I told my wife I gave them 10 years. And
that's a fact.
Was a lot longer than I intended to be involved. But it was very worthwhile. I mean, I met so many people.
Yes. Clint Werner I'm hoping is going to be a guest in the next month or so. And Todd Stimson, I'm sure you know Todd from, he's a, we went, that was amazing. That whole thing was just amazing to me.
Is Todd in Texas now?
No, I think he's in Colorado, but when I contacted him last time, he was in New York, and I think it was just transitory.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's something. Boy, he made some changes happen, didn't he?
He did. He walked from Asheville to Raleigh and got a lot of people interested along the way.
Yep.
And he was, if you try to be honest, they will do their best to destroy you.
And he did. He paid state taxes. I saw the
Yeah.
pictures of the stamp. I actually saw the stamps.
Mhm.
And so, how does that work?
Clearly not very well.
Are you talking about the
Not.
marijuana tax stamp? Because
Yes.
that was a federal deal, but that was done strictly to suppress marijuana because they required you to have it, but you couldn't get it. It was like, it was the catch-22 of marijuana.
Yeah.
Well, he had them.
We formed a deal here where we went in and we ordered stacks of the stamps, one at a time.
Oh,
They would have to write the amount on it, one stamp, 20 cents or whatever it was. Now, by the way, when I got caught in the Charlotte airport, the people that first got me, when I came through, did not know anything about what they didn't know anything about cannabis. They said, this is illegal. I said, well, so is moonshine. But we've been all over North Carolina for years,
right.
But I have had so many instances where the disgrace is just so wide and so large. Whenever I was in Vietnam, and a lot of people used cannabis in Vietnam, and I think that put Nixon under a lot of pressure when we all came home, because we had been smoking it and doing their fight for years. And I mean, it was not just me, it was a lot of people, even in the office.
Yeah.
So when we came home, they didn't know how to treat us. And Nixon was a pure ignorant crook. He took the report, the Schaefer Commission, the 13 most qualified people to evaluate this substance. And they came back and said, look, this needs to be legalized. And I remember as a veteran seeing Nixon take the report, millions of dollars, and hold it over the trash can and say, this is not what I paid you to tell me. I paid you to tell me what's wrong with cannabis, not what's right with it.
He was trying to throw off some heat, I think, at that time. That's right about when he named Timothy Leary the most wanted man or something, right?
But he was that way, even when he was in power in California and his many political campaigns there. That was one of the things. Get rid of the drug and the druggies, the hippies, the beatniks back then.
Yeah. What happens when we have 39 states and you have a prescription that you rely on and you end up having to come to Texas for a week to work? What do you do?
You don't.
Well,
I will note that our meager cannabis program did just on Monday bring chronic pain into the program. So that is progress. It wasn't on the list. So your doctor can prescribe you, actual, and then whatever. But it was.
I'm gonna talk. My guy's pretty good about it. So
it's literally just as of Monday. So it's very recent.
So that would mean that if I came from where California with my medical marijuana prescription, all I would have to do is produce that I had a prescription. But they have it differently here. They don't sell
Yeah,
it the
it's not
same
the same
way.
drug. It's not the same drug. You're getting the actual drug in California that is illegal in Texas. So it's not apples to apples like that, you know. And
Yeah, the California
so no, there's no
program.
crossover. As a matter of fact, just like with the, you know, just like with other drugs that are currently trying to be illegalized in our country, Texas is trying to make it to where there's no cross state. You can't go to another state to get that prescription and things like that. You know,
You can't go across the state lines to have an abortion.
things like that.
Yeah, well, the California program was very interesting because I got to see it when it first started up. You know,
Mhm.
Clarissa got her card, and I thought it was probably going to be, you know, just, you know, something kind of, you know, get you high, but it was the real deal. And she went to the dispensaries there in the Bay Area, and she came home with stuff that I didn't even know existed.
Is it stronger, the
It
medical
was
grade?
it was the best that was available. I mean,
It's incredible.
the California program
Absolutely.
put no restrictions on the
Mhm.
THC content or anything. They had to you know, handle it legally. It had, you know, it had to be from a dispensary that was, you know, licensed by the state. But
Well, how are you
you
going to
know,
prove that?
you know, the prices, you know, varied. You know, they had, you know, people that were on a budget. You know, they could get some shake that was,
It-
you know, low price, but then they were the top of the line stuff from Humboldt County that was readily available. They had all sorts of edibles. They had candies. They had special
the-
devices that people that had trouble smoking it. You know, they had, you know, different ways of getting the
Vaporizers and
THC.
stuff.
ingesting it and things like that.
Right.
The first time that I went to a dispensary was in Colorado, and I remember walking in. First of all, I walked in and I started crying. I literally like had an emotional, because and it was real. I couldn't believe it just was so easy and beautiful and clean and wonderful and lovely. And the second thing I did was I walked back outside because I thought surely there's like a bus here from like a senior citizens home, because there was this line of like 80-year-old, you know, octogenarians that they were all just getting their little brown bags of marijuana, you know, and it was like whatever their prescription was. And then you had the cabinet with all of the bud tenders, bless their souls, who and then just all these jars, and you could just pick like
And
whatever
And can you
bud
grow it too?
some states. So I've been to in several different states where, you know, to me the freest state is maybe Washington state, where because we were able in Washington, they didn't even like ask for an ID. You could go into, you just had, I mean, like you could not have to show an ID, you know, just basically that was a lot of places. Most states require you to identify yourself to buy it. They required you to ID to go in, basically like a
Yeah.
bar, but they didn't ID you to buy it, so it wasn't on
Okay.
record. And that's
Wow.
yeah, that's pretty rare. But per person, you know, like a lot of the states allow you to grow up to 4 to 8 plants per person, and you
Right.
know,
In California,
so
they allow you to, if you register properly, you can grow, I think, 5 plants, and they're pretty loose on that. You know, if you have like, you know, three acres going and you're not a licensed grower, then they will come and have words with you. But you know, there are quite a few people that, you know, have their backyard marijuana garden.
hmm
mhm.
And I
That's
think that
good
should be
because
cool.
they know what's in it, because unfortunately there's a lot of trade going on that's illegal trade in California, much of it being run by some of the Mexican drug cartels, and they grow it in very bad conditions. You know, a lot of
So
pesticides, a lot of
That's another
yes,
illegal
really
stuff.
great point, Scoop, because when you buy it, you get a label that literally tells you exactly like where it's grown, what the percentage is of THC, what the percent, like it breaks it. It's like a medical label when you buy it. It literally has all that information on it. And
so I'm
so
wondering
you know, that's
what
one of the things in Texas, we don't have the benefit if we are getting it on the black market. we have no idea what is, we're just having to hope that we're working with somebody we trust and that we know and all
You
of
don't
those
know if it's
things.
indica, you don't know if it's sativa,
Well, you don't
know
know if it's
anything.
poisoned. I mean, come
Yeah.
on, it's on the
So,
market, like you
Yeah, well,
don't know where it came
so what
from. There's no,
happens when the cigarette companies decide that they
they
want
already
to get,
have.
well, okay, so are they going, my feeling is they're going to
They-
add stuff to it that will make it addictive. And
Probably.
I
Yeah,
really,
that's
no,
the way.
I
That's
do,
their
I
way.
fear that.
But they
fear
have,
that.
there's the tobacco companies have already started producing their own branded in
Terry, you're
legal
in North
states.
Carolina, right? So are they doing it there?
Well, you say, is there any movement?
Yeah.
No, I mean, well, they're working now more than they did when I was there. But you
Mhm.
know, we were back to crossing state lines.
Yeah.
Whenever we had normal, I mean, not normal, but NCCPN more strong, I had an Army veteran who was transferred from Seattle, Washington to North Carolina. He had a card, he had PTSD, he had a brain injury, and he was treating it with cannabis. When he came to North Carolina, we could find no way to get him treated legally. Of course, we treated everybody anyway, but it is so, it's almost immoral.
It is immoral.
Someone who's doing well with a substance and saying, "Well, we don't believe in that over here."
Yeah, take this OxyContin that it will keep you addicted.
Yeah, well, a lot of that OxyContin, is easily come by in Texas because the big pharma companies contribute to a lot of political campaigns. So there's not going to be a lot of, they've cracked down on a lot of the opiates, because of the bad press from all the people dying from it. But they're going to be treated a lot better than any marijuana company. If you were able to actually get legal marijuana, I would see the Texas law enforcement being really tough on them.
It is simply immoral to make a self-determinate thing illegal. What I do to my body and myself is my body and myself. Period.
Not in Texas,
and it is immoral. I know, but no. It's still immoral. It is immoral in Texas. It is like absolutely immoral. Like it is, and it's because it's cruel. Ultimately, it's cruel, and cruelty in my world falls into immorality. Okay, if you are going to be cruel, then you're an immoral person. So yeah,
I think everybody would say that.
Yeah. I think it's cruel to take somebody, like you said, who is doing well on a substance it's harming literally no one, including him, and to put him into a situation where he actually has to make a morality decision. And that is bullshit. I mean, that is very upsetting to force people to choose their life, over something that is completely, it just shouldn't be there to begin with. So
your governor is one of the most callous politicians.
Yeah, he has black eyes.
I've ever seen.
Soulless.
I mean, he's a disgrace.
And he's played right under the wire, right? I mean, Trump has never said anything about him that was negative. And he's not out there like DeSantis, saying we love Trump. And then he hasn't said anything. And that's, I think, why he got reelected, because we do have very, very hardcore Republicans, but a lot of them are moving away from Trump, except for in the rural areas. So he's just able to, I mean, I was shocked, but not surprised. I was just sort of like, that he got reelected after that catastrophe of a winter that we had. And then Uvalde and all those cops they were afraid to tell him the truth. And so he went out and on the press and he didn't know why doesn't that tell you something? You can't
know, but-
trust your guys.
I watched him saying those words going, he is lying right now. He's lying. I was telling him, so yes, no, he's bad. He's bad, man. And he's not
Yeah,
going to help us.
and
Like,
we've,
he's not here
No.
for that.
but I don't know who
But we
get
have to help
beat him.
ourselves. We have to help ourselves to, you know, to your point, we have to actually advocate for ourselves and really just the more that we are present, it is really critically important. You know, the more that we're present and that we show up and that we have these conversations and we stay very public and present about this is our right in Texas. We are a maverick citizen state. We should be at the forefront of this, not chasing, you know, this issue. It is terrible that
Yeah,
we're
that's
in this.
exactly what we need to do. I watched watched California decriminalize marijuana over a long period of time. I mean, I had friends that were in the campaign, the California Marijuana Initiative back in 1972, and they were just really pushing, and you know they were beaten back because you know the Republican governors didn't want it to happen, but by just being persistent, every election cycle, they brought that up. There was people pushing the representatives to bring it up, and it finally happened. And that's the only way it's going to happen here is people keep making noise and making
What do you,
telling the truth about it and not letting these lies just lay there that have been spread since you know the 1920s about marijuana.
The emperor
if you
wears
were
no
going
clothes.
if you were going to suggest to someone a group to join to you know create, I know obviously in the North Carolina, you guys have what you started, the North Carolina Cannabis for Patients.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so we don't have that here, obviously. So is normal worth, I mean, I know yes.
Normal has survived
Yeah, we have a
for a long time.
I'm just,
Yeah.
And most people know what normal is about.
Yeah, they've done good work.
Yeah. And they have been
we have a pretty strong normal community.
Yeah. And
in the lean years when nobody.
I have a friend who was one of the
Yeah.
original organizers, Gordon Brownell, and he was a aide to President Nixon in the White House, and he wised up about marijuana and helped form Normal and advocated for a long time. And so it's not just a Democrat hippie thing. There are a lot of Republicans
Absolutely.
who are
It's a
in favor
human
of it as
thing.
well.
It is a
They just need
human
to
medical
speak
health
up.
issue.
you know, I found that
Personal lifestyle.
Several years ago, Washington was going to shut down the marijuana industry because of all the deadbeats. And so they set up a dragnet on the beltway around Washington. Almost everybody they arrested was highly employed.
I love that
Government
story.
You know, GS-13s and 14s. And they said, wait a minute. So they dropped that one, you know, because it was obvious that people, anyway.
Oh man, thank you so
Thank you.
much for coming, Perry. I hope you come back and we can talk about this some more. It's just been fascinating.
I would love to. How long has Plutopia been the background? And that's the scoop, right?
We've been around since you know the 2010. Actually, we had an off period. We've done about 300 podcasts so far. We're on YouTube and Facebook and all over.
Well,
Yes, I'll send you the link if you'd like from the YouTube. And so if do what you want with it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. This has been fabulous.
Good night, everyone, and
Thank you.
stay well.